Yo, Lego Transformers Age of Extinction Stinger, version 3. Let's go. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Say here. Let's get right into it. And now here we have Stinger version 3 in his updated robot mode. And I've got to say, this is probably my best updated build to date. I mean, the version 1, it was okay for our first try, but I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. There was a couple of issues with the construction on that version 1, bruh. I mean, for one, the proportions were kind of all over the place. The chest section on that version 1 was just way too bulky and clunky looking. On top of that, the head sculpt was, shall I say, lacking. And lastly, the worst offender has to be that vehicle mode there, because it didn't really look anything like a Pagani Huayra. And that was really just because I didn't have the knowledge or some of the pieces to actually accurately capture that shape in Lego form. Now, as you can see, I made a lot of different choices this time around with this version, in terms of the pieces I used and the ways in which I used them. So let's talk updates. Now, one of the main reasons why this build looks so much different than the version 3 is because I used this new piece that I've never used before or even actually ever had. And that piece is the corner wedge. You may not be able to tell, but this piece alone is what is responsible for making this Stinger here look so much different than the other versions. And I used that piece in various locations on his body. I used a bunch of them in the head sculpt here, the whole front portion of the bumper here, the feet, the arms, they're just laced all throughout this build here in different colors. I also made some updates to the color scheme, because when I designed those first two previous versions, I actually didn't have any brown or beige. And if you take a close look at Stinger here, he's actually got some brown and beige in his upper body, more specifically within his arms. So I said, alright, cool. Went into the brown pile, got some 1x2 circle plates and some brown corner wedges and added them to the inner portion of Stinger's arm here.
Nice.
That's savants. Now you see, on the Lego Say channel, we get crazy. Okay, so somebody else might be building a Lego car and see a scratch on the car and say, oh, you know what, I'm gonna leave that scratch out. We don't need that. No. That's details. We put that scratch in there. So you see, the construction may not be the best, but best believe we gonna put them details in there. Best believe that. Okay, the energy, it's a little too high right now. Like, you feel me? It's a little too high right now. So we at like 80, we gonna bring it back down to like 60. So we gonna like reset it and bring it back down and continue the rest of the review like that. So let's run it back. Apologies, we got a little sidetrack there. On a side note though, if you guys are interested in having me build your favorite Lego Transformers and reviewing them on the channel here, consider becoming a Super Say. Membership link in the description. And on top of that, if you guys are interested in buying instructions to some of my non-transformable builds, those are available for purchase on my Rebrickable page. The link for that is in the description as well. Okay, now back to Stinger here. I believe we were talking about the upgrades. First, we talked about the different pieces I used, and then we talked about the updates I made to the color scheme. Third, I want to talk about the updates that I made to this head sculpt here. Now, I'm actually really satisfied with how this head sculpt came out, but the thing I was kind of torn about was the fact that it doesn't actually have any eyes, and since I build at such a large scale, having eyes within my head sculpt is something I really try to get within every build. Because when the build has eyes, you get this added benefit of being able to add emotion to the face. And on top of that, it adds just this extra bit of overall realism to the build. Because I've had builds where the body really didn't look too good, but because I did the face so well, it just brought everything together and made the mock look like who it was supposed to be in the movie. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the eyes in there, but luckily, due to the overall accuracy of the head sculpt here, you can still tell this is Stinger minus those green eyes. And as for the last update, we've got the wheels sticking out from behind the back of the upper shoulders here. Now, these are actually supposed to be more like spinning spiky blades that he stores on his back, but with my version, I just substituted those with the wheels themselves. So it's not perfect, but I definitely feel like this makes a good substitute. Swinging around to the back here, I was actually expecting the kibble to come out way worse than this. I thought this dude was gonna have like this giant massive car just sitting on his upper back here. However, I was actually able to avoid that by making a portion of the car fold up behind the back of his pelvis here, and I made some other portions of the car just stick to the back of his legs so that everything wasn't just condensed on the upper portion of his body. So yeah, that actually worked out really nice because Stinger is one of those weird car transformers that doesn't actually look like he transforms into a car in his robot mode. So other than the wheels on the back of the upper shoulders here and the wheels on the bottom of the feet, you're not really supposed to see any other car parts. But you know what? Speaking of that car mode, let's get back into it because a lot of improvements were made to that vehicle mode as well. Okay, and now here we have Stinger in his Pagani Huayra vehicle mode. But this time, the true Pagani Huayra vehicle mode. Not them other dusty looking joints that we had with the version 1 and 2. So just like the robot mode, the vehicle mode has also had some major improvements. If we take a closer look at the front portion of the car here, you'll see some vents and a more natural looking curved slope. And if we take an even closer look, we'll see various cheese wedges, corner wedges, and curved slopes sprinkled all throughout the front portion of the vehicle mode here to give it a more accurate look. Now, if you thought getting that curved slope to look accurate in his vehicle mode was hard, getting the under part of the front of the car was even harder because the Pagani Huayra sports like an exposed grille section on the underside of the front of its vehicle mode. Nani? So just when I thought I was done, I got caught up again fixing up the bottom portion of the car. But you know what? It's alright though, because we got it. It took 3 versions, but we finally got it. So on top of the front portion being redesigned, I also had to redesign the upper portion of the car. So I had to make it so that this upper cabin here isn't so far back and actually restructure the inside so that it sits more in the middle of the car frame. That part was actually easy. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, that was actually the easiest part of this build. But you know what wasn't easy though? Since I moved the upper portion of the car here up, I now had to redesign a whole new slope here in the back. So that took a good couple of hours to make it look smooth, and I also had to make sure it was color accurate because the black portion of the Pagani Huayra is supposed to get thinner as it goes down towards the back. And the last update to this vehicle mode is just really making sure it had just overall better proportions, because the Pagani Huayra is one of those cars where everything kind of has to be just right in order for it to actually look how it's supposed to look. So with my other 2 previous versions, I was really trying to skid by with the vehicle modes by letting them have just slightly off or awkward proportions. But yeah, it just doesn't work with a Pagani Huayra. It has to be spot on, otherwise it just doesn't look how it's supposed to look. Now, on a side note, if you guys are interested in seeing another one of my updated builds, I'll leave the link to my Transformers Bumblebee movie Dropkick version 2 at the end of this video.